This presentation of the big game was made possible through the kind support of Tangipahoa Parish Tourism, your guide to the crossroads of Louisiana. And North Oaks Health System, improving lives every time, every touch.
Tangipahoa Parish is home to the strawberry capital of the world and the premier destination for family fun and adventure. Whether you're looking to visit one of our historic museums, grab a bite to eat at our amazing restaurants, or attend an exciting local event, there's always something to do in Tangipahoa Parish. Tangipahoa Tourism is proud to support the Southeastern Channel in its mission to educate and inspire young media professionals right here in Tangipahoa Parish, the crossroads of Louisiana.
Drop, yo!
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the big game. I am Kibi Huggins alongside with Brendon Smith, and tonight we'll give you a preview on both the Lions softball and baseball programs on the upcoming seasons.
We'll also see how Southeastern's men's and women's basketball programs are faring as they both have opened their seasons with out-of-conference play.
But first, let's see how Southeastern football ended their season with the River Bell Classic game against Nichols. On the 21st, the Lions went to Thibodeau with a 5-1 record within the Southland in hopes of ending their regular season with a statement win over the River Bell Classic rivals, the Nichols Colonels. For more on how that went, here's big game reporter Logan Lovin.
Southeastern traveled down to Thibodeau on Thursday, November 21st for the 35th annual River Bell Classic, with the all-time record between the teams sitting at 14 apiece. It was a true grudge match as an early 10-0 lead for the Lions quickly evaporated. And deep into the fourth quarter, Pat McQuaid delivered an 84-yard dagger to Scrappy Osby to tie the game at 16, but the extra point would be blocked. Later, the Colonels were driving until KK Reno made a diving interception, allowing Eli Sawyer to drive the Lions into range for Riley Callahan. And from 40 yards out, he would drill the kick, setting the Lions off to the famed run for the River Bell Trophy. Reporting for the big game, I'm Logan Lovin.
Coming off of a season in which the Lions men's basketball team would struggle to heat up and ultimately finish below .500, Coach Kiefer and his Lions look to start anew, starting this season with an almost completely new roster. For more on how the men's basketball team looks on the hardwood, here's big game reporter Allie Quirk.
After a handful of losses, Southeastern's men's basketball team finally found their footing with a win over ULM in a down-to-the-wire game, ending 70-67. Southeastern won their last 2 games against the North Dakota Fighting Hawks and Tulane's Green Wave. The Lions picked up their first win in 6 years against the Tulane Green Wave with a final score of 71-67. Jacavion Buckley led the way for the Lions, scoring a team-high 18 points. The Lions have only won 4 of the last 16 matchups against the Green Wave. With only a few games left until conference play, Southeastern has little time to prepare for preseason Southland favorites, Nice, and last year's conference champs, the Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders. Reporting from the big game, I'm Allie Quirk.
While the men's basketball team will struggle last year, the Lady Lions basketball team will be the polar opposite, flying high into losing to eventually Southland Conference champion Texas A&M Corpus Christi in the semifinal. However, the women's team also looks to start fresh, losing some big names and even gaining others. How the Lady Lions have started their season. Here's big game reporter Jalil Hutton.
The Lady Lions have been on a roll lately, beating quality teams like Memphis, Louisiana Tech, and even Southern Miss, who they beat at home in the University Center on Friday, November 15th. Before the Thanksgiving break, Southeastern went 4-1 after playing against all of those quality teams. All of this hard work and effort has been enough for Southeastern to place 125th on the NCAA's top net ranking for women's basketball. And with the help from stars like Alexius Horn and Taylor Bell, who are leading the Lions in scoring with double-digit points, and Lexi Alexander, who is one of the conference's top rebounders, they are surely bound to rise in the standings. Reporting for the big game, I'm Jalil Hutton.
Now to the Diamond, where Rick Freeman's Lions softball team is looking to go even further than last year, in which they saw the NCAA tournament, a first in school history. For a preview of what we can expect from the reigning Southland champions, here is big game reporter Jules Dormain.
Southeastern softball has big shoes to fill this year after winning the conference championship and going to regionals last year. The team boasted a 47-15 overall record and only dropped 3 games at home last year. After going to the regionals, the Lady Lions managed to beat Clemson twice, but ultimately fell short to number 14 Alabama, ending their historic season. A few key departures from last season include 2 veterans, Bailey Krolczek and Kaylin Watson. This year's team will be a senior-heavy squad headed by former All-Conference second-team member Maddie Watson. Their season gets started February 7th in Baton Rouge at the LSU Invitational against Charlotte. Reporting for the big game, I'm Jules Dormain.
We're also getting close to the return of Lions baseball after making noise in the conference tournament last year and Coach Bobby Barbier's second season. Fans in Hammond are hopeful for this year. For more insight on why, here's big game reporter Miles Edwards.
The Southeastern Lions baseball team start to get in gear for their upcoming 2025 season, with head coach Bobby Barbier entering his second season. Southeastern looks to build off his Southland Conference Tournament semifinal appearance a season ago. Barbier will be in good hands with first-team All-Conference players TJ Salvaggio and Brendon returning to the team. In a conference where 2 new teams are entering the fray, it'll be interesting to see how the Lions play out in the Southland. From the big game, I'm Miles Edwards.
Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at the Saints as we get closer to the end of the NFL's regular season. We'll also look at the Pelicans' latest performances and how they are weathering the storm through a plague of injuries. Then college football rivalry week. Don't go anywhere. The big game will be right back.
I surrender.
All right, pal.
Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
We have a gun.
Why do you ask that, kiddo?
Can I play with it?
No, absolutely not. It's not a toy. You know that. Anyway, I need it to protect you, your sister, and Mom.
But what about the 8 kids who get shot every day by mistake?
Where'd you hear that?
Where do you keep it?
It's hidden.
I bet it's on the top shelf of the closet, under your sweatshirts. Is it loaded? Remember when I found my Christmas gift? You always told me to be curious.
No, that's not what I meant.
And when it's just me and Mom, I could use the gun to protect her.
No, Justin, I promise. I'm always here for you.
But Dad, you're not always here.
There is a road laid out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is gonna be Addie's room.
I think
you're really gonna like it.
I hope so. Yeah. I know this road is there for me. There is a long way.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
The way it's down by the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
I got this.
I know this love is there for me.
Okay.
If I'm really free, take me down to the river and wash me.
As college football went through rivalry week itself, with the biggest rivals in the sport going at it, we decided to look into the most heated matchups. For more on what all went down, here's big game reporter Lucas Hill.
There is nothing quite like rivalry week in college football. From the epic brawls to the great punches, from the coaching interactions and the bad blood and history of two programs duking it out for bragging rights in their respective programs. But this week in college football was a bit more of bad blood between the two schools of their respective rival, with punches being thrown, flags and spears being planted, as well as bad blood and the fighting that happened in-game, post-game, and even pre-game is what exemplifies on what has been a truly remarkable season in college football. Massive upsets like Michigan's dominance in the run game against Ohio State to secure the Wolverines' fourth straight victory over the Ohio State Buckeyes and even put some pressure on Ryan Day, to the dominance of Arizona State over their rivals, the Arizona Wildcats, to secure their place in the Big 12 title game. But what about a long-standing rivalry in Hammond, Louisiana? The River Bell Classic certainly was one to remember, as a last-second field goal by Riley Callahan secured the River Bell Classic as it would travel once again back to Hammond, America for the second time in the last 4 years. One particular game, in the Penn State and Maryland game, featured a very tense post-game interaction between James Franklin, head coach of the Nittany Lions, and Mike Loxley, head coach of the Maryland Terrapins, where a last-second touchdown by the Penn State's third-string offense secured a 44-7 victory. And although the post-game interaction was very tense, James Franklin had a lot to say following that.
So I'm good with it. And on top of that, there's also a change in college football. We are trying to play as long as we can, make the playoffs, and be seeded as high as possible. And scoring as many points and a point differential matters. All that matters. And if you don't get that, it's really not my problem.
For the big game, I'm Lucas Hill.
And finally, the NFL, in which the Saints fans have all but been surprised by Dan Rizzi. Did this newfound hope continue? To answer that question, here's big game reporter Christian Vavasor.
Coming off the bye in a 2-game win streak, the New Orleans Saints took on the Los Angeles Rams this past Sunday inside the Caesars Superdome, and this game was a close one to the finish. The game started off with the Saints on offense. Unfortunately, it resulted in a Derek Carr fumble, recovered by the Rams' Brendon Fisk. The Saints would have to rely on Blake Grupe's leg, taking a 6-0 lead at halftime. Coming out of the half, the Rams would respond with 14 unanswered points of their own, as Rams running back Kyron Williams took it in for a 4-yard touchdown run in the third quarter. After a few stalled drives by both teams, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford hits DeMarcus Robinson for a 3-yard score to begin the fourth quarter. However, the Saints would not go down easily. On the ensuing drive, Derek Carr connected with Marquez Valdez-Scantling for a 28-yard touchdown, and then Dante Pettis for a successful 2-point conversion attempt, tying the game at 14. Stafford and the Rams would respond in kind, however, with a drive all the way down the field, ending with a Puka Nacua touchdown, giving the Rams a 21-14 lead. The final drive for the Saints took them all the way down the field, but unfortunately ended with a turnover on downs. Despite a valiant effort against a good Rams team, the Saints fall to a 4-8 record and will travel on the road next week to take on the New York Giants. And the hits keep coming for the Saints as Taysom Hill was carted off the field during the game with a torn ACL. He will miss the remainder of the season. Reporting for the big game, I'm Christian Vavasor.
The Pelicans have started their season in a stacked Western Conference. With high expectations surrounding this young team, Big Game reporter Avion Dotch gives us a look at how they've done so far.
Zion Williamson is not close to a return. He's still a ways away, and sources tell me he has received multiple treatments on that hamstring strain. They are still going to be without Zion Williamson for a considerable amount of time.
This season has been a roller coaster for the New Orleans Pelicans. A lot of injuries have plagued key players, including Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, and Brandon Ingram. Despite the adversity, Brandon Ingram has stepped up, leading the team in minutes per game, with 33.7 while averaging 22.9 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 5.4 assists. Zion, in his limited appearances, has been averaging an impactful 22.7 points, 8 rebounds, and 31.1 minutes per game. The supporting cast has also shown promise. Trey Murphy III is back, adding 17.3 points per game, while rookies like Misi and returning players like Jose Alvarado and Jordan Hawkins are trying to make an impact on this team. Amidst injuries and lineup changes, the Pelicans are fighting to stay competitive in the constantly changing Western Conference. Can they make a stay to be healthy? And can they make a push for the playoffs? Only time will tell.
Time for a break, but when we come back, we're going to wrap this show up with a preview of the upcoming Southern Conference documentary, then some pick and roll. Don't go anywhere.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020.
We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is...
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you. Kids in the middle.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete, but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
This presentation of The Big Game was made possible through the kind support of Tangipahoa Parish Tourism, your guide to the crossroads of Louisiana. And North Oaks Health System, improving lives every time, every touch.
Tangipahoa Parish is home to the strawberry capital of the world and the premier destination for family fun and adventure. Whether you're looking to visit one of our historic museums, grab a bite to eat at our amazing restaurants, or attend an exciting local event, there's always something to do in Tangipahoa Parish. Tangipahoa Tourism is proud to support the Southeastern Channel in its mission to educate and inspire young media professionals right here in Tangipahoa Parish, the crossroads of Louisiana.
Drop, yo.
Welcome back to The Big Game. Before we get into Southeastern Volleyball, we'll talk about the upcoming Southern Conference documentary. It's Christmas time, and it's the season of gifting and giving, and what's better than the gift we all can cherish and love? The Southern Conference is presenting a new documentary showcasing the day-to-day operations of each women's and men's basketball team. Every team will have the opportunity to give us a glimpse of their culture, hard work, and dedication on and off the court. Tune into ESPN Plus to see more of each team and what Southern Hoops is all about. Let's get into pick and roll. Now, Brendon, after 10 plus years, head coach for Nichols has retired. How will that affect Southeastern football and recruitment?
Well, the retirement of Nichols head football coach Tim Reboot, it's big news for Southeastern. I mean, for the longest time, these two schools have been competing against one another to recruit these high school players. You've seen Hammond players go to Thibodaux, and you've seen Thibodaux players go to Hammond, and now there might be a swing in the pendulum whenever it comes to Southeastern getting some of those Nichols recruits that were going to go to be coached by head coach Tim Reboot.
We all know it's Christmas, and everyone has to make a list for Santa. What is something you're wishing for from Southeastern athletics?
Well, I could be generic and I could just say any Southland Conference title, but I'm going to go a little bit different, and I'm going to say a regular season win over McNeese. Okay. McNeese has been running this conference since last year, since Will Wade got to Lake Charles, and they beat them last year on the road. If they can get a big statement win in the University Center, I think that would make for a very good Christmas gift.
I agree. And to talk about Southland Conference, as we know, Southeastern Volleyball fell short this past Sunday against Corpus Christi, and they did not have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. Do you think they should have made it, or you understand why they didn't make it?
I mean, I understand why they made it, but they should have made it into the tournament. Under the circumstances that all 5 of their losses in their season were all to teams that made the tournament, the fact that they finished second in their conference whenever they went to the championship and lost to Christie, and they were undefeated in the conference for the regular season. Whenever you're 26-5, great seasons like that, I think, should be rewarded.
I agree. Did they deserve to make the tournament? Yes. Did I think they were going to make it? No, because if you look at the level of competition they're playing, they didn't beat a tournament team. Now, they did play BYU at the beginning of the season. If they would have beat BYU, then we would have had an argument for them to make it. But since the level of playing field is kind of low in the Southland Conference, I can understand why they did not make it.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because they did beat Florida A&M. And if you look at some of the other teams that made the tournament, like South Dakota State and Illinois, we can pardon Illinois from this conversation, but South Dakota State, they did not beat a single team that made the that made the tournament. They lost to St. Thomas. They did not finish undefeated in their conference, and they didn't even win their conference championship.
Okay,
and they
I was going to ask that question if they won their conference.
Yes, they made the tournament, and they didn't win the conference championship. Rules like that, they should apply to all teams. If you don't win the conference tournament in a smaller league, then why do some teams make it over others? It doesn't make any sense.
Now that you say that, I understand that. That makes sense. But I've heard that this is your last show. Is it anything you want to say before leaving?
There is some things that I want to say, and what could I say that could be expressed in 1 or 2 minutes? Honestly, there's not enough that I could say on air right now. I could thank everybody by name, but that's too difficult right now. Anybody that knows me or has known me at my time at the channel, you know who you are, and thank you so much for helping me through my time here at the channel. I've grown so much as a person, as a man, and in my career. Thank you all so much for making the man that I am today, and I'm not sure what's next for me after Southeastern, but I'm looking forward to find out. Thank you so much for having me here at the Southeastern channel.
That'll do it for this episode of The Big Game. For more information on the Lion Athletics, visit lionsports.net, and for more of us here at The Big Game, visit thesoutheasternchannel.com. So for Brendon Smith and the entire Big Game crew, I'm Kibi Huggins. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.